There is something very wrong with James Harden.
I'm not a system player, I am a system.
He wanted out of Oklahoma City, out of Houston, out of Brooklyn, and now once again he wants out of Philadelphia. What is wrong with this man? Well, it wasn't always this way. Let's go back to a simpler time where it all began.
The 9 NBA draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select James Harden of Arizona.
During his time with the Oklahoma City Thunder from 2009 to 2012, Harden was the dynamic third player in the team's Big Three, along with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. And after the Thunder made the finals in 2012 and Harden was named the NBA's 6th Man of the Year, he expected to get paid like it. He routinely sacrificed his body night in and night out to give his team a chance to win. But he felt that he wasn't as appreciated as the other two star players. He was the odd man out when it came time to negotiate a new contract. Unfortunately for Harden, the Thunder had already locked down both Russ and KD to maximum contracts. If the team wanted to do the same for Harden, they would have to pay a massive luxury tax to afford him. After a back-and-forth battle with Thunder Brass, things came to a stalemate. Oklahoma City's GM Sam Presti eventually offered Harden a final deal that was for 4 years and worth $54 million. Harden refused and was traded to the Rockets soon after.
James Harden deserved every penny of the max contract.
No denial here. He absolutely did.
Blew it, Thunder!
After being traded from the Thunder to the Rockets in October 2012, James Harden began what could be seen as a meteoric rise to superstardom, as he spent the next 10 seasons in Houston absolutely wrecking the league. Over his time in Houston, Harden was named an All-Star 9 times, led the NBA in scoring 3 times, and was named League MVP in 2018. There's no denying it, he was one of the most dominant players on the planet during his run in H-Town. But for as dominant as Harden was as a Rocket, the team could never get over the hump and win an NBA championship. After frustrating playoff losses to the Spurs, Warriors, and Lakers over several seasons, Harden eventually became unhappy with his current situation in Houston. To add insult to injury, after the Rockets were bounced from the 2020 playoffs by LeBron and the Lakers, Houston's ownership group decided it was time for a front office shakeup. Mike D'Antoni, the coach who had designed the system that helped James Harden come into his own as a superstar, was the first domino to fall, as he left Houston in September of 2020. Shortly after that, Daryl Morey stepped down as Houston's GM. After these moves, there was seemingly not much left for James Harden in Houston. The coach who helped transform him into an NBA superstar was now gone, as was the guy who spent a decade building Houston into one of the better teams in the league, who Harden considered a friend. Along with D'Antoni and Morey leaving the team, Russell Westbrook also wanted out. Surprisingly enough, even after all the turmoil, Harden publicly said he was committed to staying in Houston with the Rockets. But here's where things get weird. While Harden's last clash with the front office in Oklahoma was over money, this wasn't the case. He turned down an extension from the Rockets that was set to pay him $50 million a year, which would have been a first for any NBA player. Since Harden's refusal to re-sign with the team seemingly wasn't about the money, Houston then bent over backwards to try and accommodate his desire to share the floor with other dynamic players. They brought in players like John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, but unfortunately for the Rockets, Harden still wasn't happy. The opportunity to play with Boogie and the rest of the gang still wasn't enough. Once the Rockets denied Harden's trade request to Brooklyn, he became like a disgruntled employee as he missed mandatory training camp. He held out and simply told the team he would be there soon. Must be nice not showing up for work with no consequences. Harden eventually showed up to the team and started the 2021 season on a hot streak, but after he and the Rockets cooled off, Harden forced his way out of the city. He eventually came right out and said in a press conference that he didn't think the current lineup was good enough to win an NBA championship.
We're just not good enough. We don't obviously chemistry, talent-wise, just everything, and it was clear, like I said, these last few games.
And that the relationship between him and Rockets ownership was so badly damaged that it couldn't be fixed. And with that, Harden was shipped off to Brooklyn like he wanted.
That conversations were escalating with both the Brooklyn Nets and the Philadelphia 76ers.
This is Kevin Durant's franchise. James Harden would not be there unless Kevin Durant wanted him to be there.
Harden was reunited with his old OKC teammate Kevin Durant and all-star point guard Kyrie Irving when they all teamed up in Brooklyn in January 2021.
I really admire the way he's just handled kind of the burden of being the main guy, and now that he's with us, I don't think he has to feel that way anymore.
But things didn't go according to plan. The Nets were undoubtedly one of the most talented teams in the NBA, and they finished that season at second in the East with a 48-24 record. But Harden and Kyrie were both struggling with injuries for a significant amount of time during the season. Harden himself was struggling with hamstring issues, and the team fell to Milwaukee in 7 games in the second round of the NBA playoffs. Brooklyn tried to keep James Harden around for the future by signing him to an extension, but he turned it down. No one knows why, as the Nets were still poised to be one of the best teams in the East and a true NBA championship contender. That is, until both Kyrie and KD went down with injuries yet again.
And it goes down hard on his right shoulder. He's shaking up, now he's holding his... Came down. Durant twisted the right ankle when he came down. A lot of white jerseys.
And the Nets plummeted from the top of the East all the way down to 8th in the conference. With things in Brooklyn going up in smoke, James Harden once again showed his true colors. Even though the team insisted that they weren't going to trade him at the deadline, Harden wanted a trade to the Sixers, but he was afraid of how fans would react if it went public. Then, James Harden got his wish.
The Brooklyn Nets are trading James Harden to Philadelphia for the 76ers.
At this point, I think it's safe to say that James Harden will never be satisfied with any situation he finds himself in, whether that's in basketball or in life, because now that he is playing for the Sixers, we now find ourselves in this situation. If his team isn't competitive enough, he's upset. If he's not being paid what he feels he's worth, even if he's on the winning team, he throws a fit. Which is how we got into this situation.
The Sixers begin the season with all sorts of questions about James Harden, who wants to be traded to the Clippers, who has called President of Basketball Operations Daryl Morey a liar, and is not with the team in Milwaukee.
Philly seems to be the first team that's had the stones to put their foot down with Harden. Even though the Nets traded him to the Sixers in February of 2022, Philly has a stipulation in Harden's contract that holds his feet to the fire. If Harden goes more than 30 days straight without showing up for team activities, his contract with the Sixers will be considered incomplete, and he won't be able to play basketball anywhere else at any level without the team's approval. If that's not crazy enough, the one who put that condition in his contract was none other than the current Sixers GM, Daryl Morey, the guy James Harden worked alongside in Houston for a decade. Harden wanted to be traded to the LA Clippers, and wouldn't you know it, James got his wish.
Go while you were sleeping. Massive news from the NBA. The Clippers acquiring James Harden from the Sixers.
Taking $26 million less to be able to sign and make the team better. Taking less money, sacrificing the role, like that's not talked about. It's talked about the other, BS. But and it just didn't work out. So me leaving Brooklyn.
And there you have it. I guess the main question now are, will James Harden stay in LA? How will this impact the rest of the league? Well, that is anyone's guess.